The golden wheat fields of rural Kansas whispered under the evening breeze, but what should have been a peaceful farm sunset was broken by cruel laughter. The sound carried across the empty land like the screech of vultures. Against the rough boards of an old wooden fence stood Anna, her wrists tied cruelly with coarse rope that cut into her skin. Her blouse was torn from the struggle, and her long dark hair clung to her sweat and tears. Before her stood 6 young men in bright blue and yellow varsity jackets, the pride of the local high school. They were the sons of wealth, of power, of families who believed the town belonged to them. And at the center of it all was Mason Keller, the principal's son, the golden boy with a cruel smile. He stepped close, sneering down at Anna as though she were an animal caught in a trap. "You think you're tough, farm girl? Out here with your chickens and cows, acting like you belong in our world?" His friends roared with laughter. One of them raised his phone, capturing every second of Anna's humiliation. Anna bit her lip, refusing to give them the satisfaction of her screams. Inside, though, her heart thundered. She thought of her husband, Daniel. Strong, steady Daniel, who even after years of war carried the silence of the battlefield inside him. He would be home soon from the fields. And God help him if he found her like this. But fate never asks permission. Before I take you deeper into this story, let me welcome you to Soul Touch Stories, where we bring you powerful tales of resilience, justice, and the human spirit. If you love stories that grab your heart and don't let go, make sure you subscribe right now, so you'll never miss what's coming next. By the time the boys untied Anna and left her trembling in the dirt, the sun had almost vanished. She stumbled back to the farmhouse, rope burns stinging her wrists, pride aching worse than her body. When Daniel returned minutes later, carrying the weight of the day's work on his shoulders, the sight of her nearly broke him. "What happened?" His voice was low, but in its depth was the promise of thunder. Anna tried to hide it, brushing tears from her face. "Nothing. Just kids being stupid." But Daniel's eyes found the truth. He saw the rope burns. He saw the terror she couldn't mask. He pulled her close, her face pressed against the rough fabric of his shirt. He didn't rage, not yet. He only held her until her trembling slowed. But behind his silence, a storm gathered. That night, Daniel sat on the porch long after Anna went to bed. The crickets sang, the stars burned bright, but his mind was elsewhere, on the deserts of Afghanistan, the firefights that had carved scars on his soul. He had promised himself never again. Never again would he unleash that darkness. But tonight, darkness called his name. The next morning, Mason and his friends strutted across the school parking lot, laughing about their fun. "Did you see her face?" one of them crowed. "Like a scared rabbit." Mason grinned, shoving his hands in his jacket. "I told you, she's just trash. This town worships my dad, and nobody's gonna touch me. Not even her husband." They didn't notice the rumble of an old Ford truck pulling into the lot. Didn't notice the man who stepped out, broad-shouldered and silent, until his shadow fell over them. "Daniel." The laughter died. Mason tried to recover with a smirk. "What's this, old man? Come to complain? Maybe call the sheriff?" "Newsflash, my dad is the sheriff." Daniel's jaw tightened. His voice was calm, too calm. "I don't call the law when it comes to my family. I am the law." The boys chuckled nervously, but Daniel didn't waver. He stepped forward and slammed his palm onto the hood of the nearest car. The metal caved in like tin foil. The sound rang through the lot like a gunshot. "You think you're men?" Daniel's voice carried steel. "Tying a woman to a fence. Laughing at her pain. That's not manhood. That's cowardice." For the first time in their lives, Mason and his friends felt fear. What followed wasn't a wild brawl. Daniel was too controlled for that. He dismantled them with precision, the way a soldier dismantles an enemy. A wrist twisted here, a shoulder shoved into gravel there. Phones shattered under his boots. Mason, the ringleader, found himself face first in dirt, his nose bleeding, his pride bleeding worse. But Daniel wasn't finished. He dragged Mason by his jacket, ignoring the boy's panicked protests, and hauled him back to the farm. Mason's friends followed at a distance, too frightened to intervene. At the fence where Anna had been tied, Daniel bound Mason tight. The rope bit into the boy's skin, just as it had into Anna's. Mason squirmed, rage and panic warring in his eyes. "You don't know what hellfire is," Daniel murmured in his ear. "It's not flames. It's not death. It's when you face the weight of what you've done. And the whole world watches you burn in shame." For hours, Daniel left Mason there, under the sun, as word spread across town. Farmers, teachers, parents, they all came. They saw the golden boy tied up, his mask stripped away. And for the first time, Mason Keller wasn't untouchable. Anna watched from the porch, tears in her eyes. Not tears of fear, but of something harder to define. Relief. Vindication. Pride. Daniel had given her back her dignity. But later that night, when the crowd had dispersed and Mason had been cut free, Daniel sat alone by the fire. His hands trembled. His mind replayed the battlefield. He had sworn never again, yet here he was, the soldier reborn. Anna sat beside him, slipping her hand over his. "You didn't do it for revenge," she whispered. "You did it because no one else would protect us." Daniel's jaw clenched. "I saw something in me today I thought I buried overseas. I don't know if I should be proud, or afraid." She kissed his cheek softly. "You're not the man they tried to break. You're the man who saved me." Weeks passed. Mason's reputation shattered. The videos his friends had recorded, once meant to humiliate Anna, now condemned them all. Parents pulled their children away from Mason. The school turned cold. Even his father, the sheriff, couldn't shield him from the judgment of a town that had finally opened its eyes. But revenge leaves ripples. Other girls came to Anna quietly, their voices trembling with long-buried stories. Stories of parties gone wrong, of threats, of cruelty hidden behind varsity jackets and powerful last names. And Daniel listened too, each confession adding weight to the vow he now carried, never again. Anna began hosting the girls at the farm, offering them safety, offering them hope. And Daniel, though haunted by what he had unleashed, stood guard not just for Anna, but for every young soul too scared to speak. The farm became more than a home. It became a refuge. Before I bring this to a close, I want to ask you, if this story has struck your heart, if you believe in justice, in love, and in standing against cruelty, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Soul Touch Stories. Every click helps keep these stories alive. Years later, they still spoke of that day at the fence. Some called it Daniel's revenge. Others called it justice. But Anna called it something else. Hellfire, she said, isn't destruction. It's the fire that burns away shadows, so the truth can finally be seen. Mason never raised his voice in cruelty again. The golden boy's shine had turned to ash. But for Anna and Daniel, the flames had forged something stronger, a love unshakable, a dignity reborn, and a farm where the weak grew tall, whispering in the wind of battles fought and won. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't in destroying your enemies. It's in reclaiming your strength, and showing the world that no one can steal your light.